It's an incredible opportunity to be over here and be joined by the Chief Minister of such a vibrant state. I saw him a few weeks back, couldn't quite meet him in Davos, talking about the Maharashtra picture, the Maharashtra story, to people from all across the globe interested in investing in Maharashtra and interested in learning about the future of Maharashtra. And I think this session, which we are going to be doing today, is about the future. It's about infra, it's about AI, it's about a commitment to the future, because the Maharashtra and the Mumbai of tomorrow is going to change faster than we can imagine. There are incredible global strands that we need to pick up on, because India and Maharashtra does not live in isolation. We are part of a global common, and we have to be global in our thinking. Devendra Fadnavis, the Chief Minister, is in a sense a futurist. It's wonderful to have him here. Sindhu Gangadharan, Chairperson of Nasscom, and Sanjeev Krishnan, Chairperson of PwC India. Thank you all very much for being with us. So I could start with infra, but I think given what we are seeing in AI, and we've just concluded the AI Impact Summit in Delhi, but even in the last 24 hours, we are seeing so many dramatic changes, the valuation of companies going up and down, questions on data being asked. How ready are you in Maharashtra to deal with the impact of AI on jobs?
Thank you for this wonderful question. And I think, as we all know, that the entire job market is changing after AI. First of all, we have started, AI adoption in our governance, because I think we want to make a very resilient governing structure, so that we are also future ready. And apart from that, we have actually assessed the impact of AI on different sectors. Especially we want our academia to be ready for this AI revolution, and that is why we are actually conversing more with the industry, so that we create a talent pool which is ready with the AI. So I would say that right now we are working on two strategies. One is adoption of AI in governance, creating all digital public infrastructure so that we pass it on to our citizens. And on the other hand, we are trying to make a good talent pool in AI through working very closely with the academia.
Sindhu Gangadharan, there are so many over here who believe that any profound change as far as AI is concerned in India will impact us in the long run much more than other countries, given the nature of our workforce. Kristalina Georgieva, the IMF MD, who I spoke to a few days back, said 25% of all Indian jobs within 2 to 5 years. It's no longer just a question of reskilling and upskilling. It's being ready to face these challenges. How do we do it?
Yeah, I think a great question. In fact, a lot of the conversations that we've had during the course of today is exactly going in that direction. And I think one of the focus points for us is definitely not just about talking about numbers and scale of, because there is this conversation, or do we grow with scale, or do we focus on content, focus on IP creation, do we focus on core capabilities in terms of understanding certain domains? Because today, as we all know, AI can really help us solve some of the really complex challenges very quickly once we bring in that AI technology skills, but also the domain skills. And so a lot of the work that we are doing is really going into that, right? So doubling down on our key strength, which is, of course, the scale of our talent, but really looking at that scale of the talent to really understand certain domains where using the power of technology that we can address this. And a couple of things, if we look in, is also the whole ownership of how are we looking at very complex areas of focus and having that product leadership to help drive outcomes towards those problems.
Mr. Krishnan, India is not a second-tier IT or tech power. We are a number one, a first-tier power. But it differs from country to country. In India, we are hosting, 1,700 GCCs. A lot of the decision-making in the future pertaining to this needs to come out of India. It doesn't need to be imposed from others outside. How does India make the transition to being a genuine decision maker when it comes to GCCs?
So, speaking about GCCs, I'll keep it brief, but maybe one example. A lot of the innovation that happens, including, let's say, 30% of the design of the chips, is happening in India. One thing for us to think about is that how do we make sure that the IP also remains in India? Can the IP, the development which is done by Indian engineers, Indian students who come up, and they are the ones who actually then develop it, but the registration of the IP happens elsewhere, and then we end up paying royalty for it. So, I'm just giving one example, because the ecosystem has to be enabled. I can tell you that, as we were just talking, my own business is going to get disrupted. Every business, professional service is going to get disrupted, IT is going to get disrupted. The GCC business is also going to get disrupted very significantly. And to enable them to scale up and continue to be relevant, we will have to look at some of these enablements for us to happen. I do want to make just one more point, since we spoke about skilling and education and being ready. I think we also need to look at our rehaul of our education system, sir. Because, what I hear from my friends who are, like my age, they say that when they go back to IIT, BHU or Kanpur, 85% to 90% of what they're being taught today is similar to what they were taught 25 years back. So maybe some amount of focus on reskilling has to come through our engineering, our IITs and others as well. So there's a bit of a rehaul required there as well.
Just to add on to that, in a closed door session earlier, I put forth this idea to Nasscom that let us do a day-long workshop with the academia in Mumbai, with all the Maharashtra institutions, to brainstorm on the nature of jobs and how technology is changing the entire academic structure and how we are going to adopt it. Because I think the cutting edge things are available with the members of Nasscom, and Nasscom has been working on it over a long time. They also have a vertical which works at that. So I think this, coming together, government, academia, and institution like Nasscom, we can actually do it very fast.
Absolutely.
Mr. Fadnavis, I meant to ask you a question linked to this. We can't talk about AI if we don't talk about semiconductors. And for India, it's not just resilient supply chains. It's also about having our own fabs and manufacturing semiconductors in India. How well is Maharashtra placed in this?
So I would say that Maharashtra is doing very good, especially when it comes to the ecosystem of OSAT, ATMP, creating a talent pool. We are doing very well. I think, with few of businesses which are located here, we may become the number one in this space, in this ecosystem. But having said that, I think we need to do more, and we are actually trying to interact with many businesses so that we become the epicenter of this revolution.
Sindhuji, what is important to remember is that the energy requirements to fuel our AI ambitions are very real. It's not just thinking about it, it's having the power to do it. Whether it's nuclear power or other sources of power, how closely is infra development in energy key to any AI future that we may dream of?
I think, like the Honorable Minister said, right, it is the time, it's the need of the hour that all partners come together to solve the problem. If I just put on my hat as a product leader, right, one of the things that we are focused on, because if each one were to focus on their niche areas, we can solve for problems of the future, right? Because if you think about what keeps us awake at night and kind of looking at AI from all its dimensions, it is we're all very bullish on the fact that, hey, we have everything that it needs. You talked about talent, you talked about problem solving, you talked about domain. We have all of that, but it's at the same time, like you said, infrastructure becomes an important element. And today, if you just look at the stack, big parts of the stack, right from the chip to cloud infrastructure, you heard about the big investments from a data center point of view. or the frontier models are owned not in India, right? I mean, it's owned elsewhere. And this is also where that partnership across the industry, across the ecosystem, to really look at the stack, to see which parts of the stack, if we say sovereignty is important for us, then which parts of the stack really may help us look at aspects like data protection, ownership of data, all of this, right? But I'll go back to my point on it's key that today partners come together, really form those alliances and drive forward, because the elements are in place. It's really about coming together and driving towards outcomes.
If you look, Sanjeev, at the issue of the India stack, we've got, and there's so many different technologies which need to be mastered for that. The US now wants us to consider the US stack. They want to export it, they want to share it. And in as much as we talk about Atmanirbharta, which would include the India stack, there are options from outside, from our closest strategic partners. How do we balance what we want to do by ourselves over here in terms of the stack and what is being offered to us or being sold to us?
Well, I think that's a question which goes into the realms of geopolitics and geoeconomics and so on and so forth. See, I think our own UPI stack, our own digital public infrastructure, that is now being used by more than 25 countries, right? I mean, I'm sure we all know that, it has been vetted by foreign banks. Every bank, 600 odd banks are in it, but there are 300 applications also which run on the digital public infrastructure at this point in time. And I can tell you that at least in my conversations, including any global businesses, at least the Indian affiliates of global businesses, no one has said to me that they have found any challenges in using the entire digital public infrastructure that we have set up. Whether it is our Aadhaar, whether it is the UPI and so on and so forth, I think it's working very, very well, and that's why it is getting adopted. Now, when we are being asked, to do something which we won't like to do, we have seen in the past also, over the last, I think there is no better testimony than the last 8 to 9 months with the way we have responded to what has been thrust upon us, and I don't think I need to say more.
Just to supplement to Sanjeev, I will tell you one experience. Recently in Davos, I participated in one panel where AI ministers of 12, 13 countries were present, and the minister from Brazil, she expressed that we are developing our entire DPI based on India. Yeah. So based on Indian experience and Indian knowledge, they are creating their entire DPI. So I think right now, so far as DPI is concerned, we are actually leading.
Yeah, we are world leaders when it comes to that. It's merging AI with our DPI, which is going to be the real trick going forward. Any thoughts on that?
No, I think I'll tell you. Recently, yesterday itself, we started this AI for Agriculture Summit. It's still happening in Geo Center. Now we have the Agri-Stack. Agri-Stack is something where every single farmer from Maharashtra, his information, his holding, his crop pattern, everything is there. And we have Mahavistar. Mahavistar is our AI arm, whereby we have created a chatbot or a agentic, we have used agentic AI. And every single farmer now, once he is onboarded on Mahavistar, he gets his own agent. And everything, that concerns him is available there. Right now, 3 million farmers are already onboarded. Now the marriage of AgriStack and marriage of Mahavistar will create what you want, that the AI should be used with our stack. And I think what essentially it is doing is that it is bringing down, the cost for them by 25 to 40%. It is giving them predictability, because I think today that is one sector which is most unpredictable. So I think we have already started doing that.
Let's change our focus slightly to look at some of the other areas. You have a robust industry policy, but you would need to be looking well into the future. And, it's changing. How is that a real policy concern for you in terms of the future industrialization of Maharashtra?
So I think you are absolutely right. In today's ecosystem, I think even our policies are changing. So because we have deliberated on GCC, so what essentially we are doing today is that we are writing the policies with the sector councils. So while writing the policy on GCC, we have involved, all the different associations, all the different businesses who are into GCC. And now that has become the most dynamic policy. So the offtake has increased, and today our industry secretary was telling me that, and the reports have also come that Maharashtra, in fact Pune, has become #1 in the GCC ecosystem. So I think that right now, what we really need to do is to work very closely with different industries. Now we wrote the logistic policy with the logistic council, and that has become a very future-looking policy, because you know that in today's world, when we talk of supply chain, logistic is something which is going to play a very vital and major role. Yeah. So I think that's what in the government now, policy-led growth is our mantra. And all these policies are not written in silos. They are not written just in any room. But we are interacting with the business. We are understanding what the businesses require, and based on that, we are doing it. Now, the basic thing is that most of the jobs are created in MSME. That is one sector where we need lot of AI adoption. So now we are trying to create a policy around that, so that ultimately, MSME needs support from the government to adopt all the new technologies. We'll be working with Nasscom, we'll be working with CII, we'll be working with all the different sector councils to create a policy around that.
Sanjeev, a lot of what the Chief Minister says is great and it's visionary. It will not work unless there is more private sector investment in all of this. It's not just his job to raise funds and to disseminate funds, but this is a problem. It came up in the budget as well, in conversations. So in terms of our shared future, whether it's industrial growth or AI tech-driven growth, do you believe the private sector needs to do a lot more in terms of investments?
Well, certainly. I mean, if you look at the last 3 years, I mean, if you look at the budget of the last 3 years, even this year, 8.8% enhancement in the capex expenditure, I think the government has done its bit. I think the private sector needs to put its hand up. I'm proud of the part of the private sector, but I must admit, I mean, if you look at it, why there is not so much R&D in India? I mean, why are we still at 0.6? It is the very reclusive nature of the private sector which has got us to a 0.6% of R&D. We cannot get everything. We cannot get incentivizations for everything. I mean, there can be incentivizations for a few things, right? So, I mean, R&D is a clear example, right? And it is so interesting that we talk about an Indian professor in Harvard creating something new, then giving that idea to an Indian boy or girl who actually then creates TAM out of it in the US market, and then people in India invest in that business. I think that infrastructure, that ecosystem needs support. Like we were discussing academia, right? How many private institutions actually support development? I mean, I know IIT Madras does it, some other IITs do it, but the kind of scaling that happens in overseas, etc., is something which is very, very important. So that's one part, because that develops the social infrastructure. Paying our professors well, encouraging them to come up with new ideas, that is very, very important. The second one, of course, is the physical infrastructure, which again is very, very important. I think on that one, I would certainly say, and I take the points around MSMEs, but I want to coin, if I'm not being too aggressive here, a concept of Mali, which is medium and large scale industries, because there is a lot of large scale, apart from the 20 big business houses, there are these large, industries which have become big over the last 15 years. I think they need to be encouraged to be able to do a lot more. See, MSMEs also include micro, which is like a 1-man or a 10-man. What works for them possibly does not work for what I will call Mali. And that's where I think we have to encourage them, because many of them are looking at short-term numbers, what I have to respond to next quarter, and at times, as a result, we're not able to take long-term bets.
But I think, Sanjeev, if I may just add to what you said, right? We all have a collective effort to change that mindset. You talked about also how do we bring this change into focus on R&D, focus on IP. What have the corporates got to do, right? And I think we all have a significant role to play in turning around that mindset, because so you talked about the academia, industry, and government coming together. And as part of this, also our professors need to have those immersion programs. It's not just the students, right? It's also about, because many times when we hold these immersion programs for professors, they also understand, hey, how are we applying AI in the context of a real life use case? Because that needs to get back to the universities, to our young talent, so that when they go out there, they're like, oh, I need to solve for this problem, right? How do I get to a problem-solving approach? How do I create tech to address that problem? And that, I think it's more of a mindset plus cultural shift that I think everybody in this room has a role to play to kind of change that direction.
I agree completely. Right? Sir, you know, I think one of our biggest problems across our country is that research and development is always backdoor. We don't value researchers. This can be in engineering, research, and pure sciences, and yet we talk about Atmanirbharta. In your vision for Maharashtra, and if you can name a few sectors where you are pushing R&D because there is no choice.
No, I think in every sector we need to push it, but I will agree with Sanjeev that as a state also we are not doing much for it. I mean, we are doing certain things. We are our policy is focused on research. We are actually keeping certain incentives on research. We are keeping certain funds spared for research and development. But having said that, the amount of research which we require is not being done. And I think it is high time that the government and the private sector both, look at it. Like there has been huge thrust from the central government on research. I think one of the biggest fund is created by the Modi government for research. But I think now at the state level also we need to do more. We need to work more with the industry. So I think that we will try to, accelerate it.
Let me bring in a bit of a reality check over here. And it's unfortunate, but we must, as we wrap up this discussion, bring it back to AI. 2 years from now, there may be no researchers because research is done by the machines. There may not be starting level lawyers because there are machines which process that information. There may not be software coders because the machine is coding itself and improving upon itself, right? There may not be chartered accountants either. Those are lakhs and lakhs of jobs within 2 to 5 years. Is that not a reality given the pace of the technology we are seeing with all of these agentic AI apps?
So, I mean, I do agree that there is going to be a lot of efficiency gains, and we need to be able to be agile about what is going to change our businesses. I think there is a very active role for government, civil society, and businesses to come together. Because at times I feel that civil society is advocating, but the government is not able to do, or business is not able to monitor. I think all three of us need to come together. That's one thing that I will say. The second thing that I want to say very briefly is that when you talk about all these job losses, etc., I mean, history is replete with examples. Every new technology innovation that has come, every new technology innovation, and that's been said many times, so I will be very short. Human will always be ahead of it, right? I mean, yes, people are talking about AGI. AGI will take over human intelligence. We'll see when that happens, right? I mean, I was at Synapse over the weekend, and I heard about world models. Forget LLMs, right? And that's a very interesting concept that has been spoken about. I don't think that, and one thing which I took away, LLMs are maybe doing very, very well, and I'm sure I'm talking to a group of technologists here. But one thing which we had took away from conference was that they're possibly not as intelligent as we think they possibly are.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So this is going to become a political issue for you sooner than later. A certain part of our educated middle class who find there are no jobs. There will be jobs, but the quality of jobs will change, the nature of jobs will change.
Absolutely, but I think it's a process. You see, we should not look at as replacement. We should leverage it as enhancement. So I would like to remind you that when the computer revolution came, there was a big debate in this country that computer is going to take all the jobs away and entire India with such huge population will be jobless. And there were national leaders who were absolutely opposing computers. We have heard them that ये क्या खाना भी पका लेगा क्या कंप्यूटर क्या ये फसल भी उगा देगा क्या कंप्यूटर. But I think that we lived up to it, and we used that computer revolution to leapfrog. So I think in this era of AI, certainly the nature of job is going to change. But let us see, 10 years back, a job of a creator or profession of creator was not known to anybody. Today, every other person is getting a job of creator or is embracing a profession of creator. So I think huge new opportunities are getting created. The nature of jobs will be changed. But I think if you look at, the new generation, they are born with technology. They are using AI right from, their class 1. They know how to use it. So I think this generation will adopt it. But in any case, our generation has to work more so that, this adoption is fast and this transition is very fast.
Sir, I'm just thinking about all the wonderful translators we have in this country, translating our hundreds of languages. They don't have a role, sir. The machine does it for them. It's a real worry.
You see, in, let's say 10, 15, 20 years back, in every office, there was a steno. And somebody used to dictate. And the steno, used to use that shorthand and then it's not required anymore. So, let me tell you that when I was a kid, in all the government offices, there were people who had only summer employment to put water in a water cooler. It's no more. So the nature of job changes. You have to adopt it.
I can't agree more with you, Honorable Minister, because it's definitely displacement of jobs, but it's also an opportunity to look at new roles and new skills. And we just come from a strategic briefing where we said that the net employment creation is only increasing, right? So I don't have any issues when we're talking about new entrepreneurs looking at new ways to solve new problems, right? And new challenges which will improve the world and the societies that we live in.
My problem will be only that part of generation who don't want to change. That will be the problem. Otherwise, no problem.
You're looking at one old person over here. But look, Chief Minister, it's been wonderful speaking to you. This is a conversation we need to keep having, because I suspect the nature of the conversation will change in the years to come. It's not going to be this, because the future is extremely dynamic when it comes to AI. But a warm round of applause for the Chief Minister of Maharashtra and our other panelists as we look at Maharashtra and the future from the prism of growth and certainly AI. Thank you, sir.